in the frame. Do you want to be? All right, we are back and we are live. Just me tonight. Well, I've got Kyle, our helper. He say, hey, Mike. Mike had other things to do tonight, so he's not going to be able to join us. But what we do here is we try to take an hour, hour and a half or so, and go live and answer some questions. You can only imagine the amount of questions we get through the YouTube comments and the emails and text and everything else. It's kind of hard to answer all those. So hopefully this way we can just go over some stuff. Maybe we'll all learn something, ask different questions, whatever you want to talk about. I'm game. So I guess we'll jump right into it. The first question, we got Gary. Thanks, Gary, for being here, upstate New York. He's asking if his Bobcat on the front of his S175 is rusted through and just neglect, really. So, wow, almost $2,000 from Bobcat, and it's on back order, which surprises me. They were kind of getting those tatches back into stock for a while there. Aftermarket units are available for $1,000 from LPS, which is Loader Parts Source. And I've been talking to Loader Parts Source here. They kind of wanted to work with us a little bit. And I've done business with them a few times, but it seems like there are a lot of aftermarket companies that are making really good attach plates. I haven't bought one. I mean, typically I do like to kind of stay OEM myself, but there is quite a bit of price difference there. If it were my machine, an older S175 like that, I would probably go aftermarket as well. I don't think you're going to have any issues with that. So, yeah, give it a shot and let us know how it turns out. I might give Loader Part Source a chance as well here in the future if we need to buy one of those attach plates. Thanks for asking that, though. Let's see. You drove your Kubota dealership working on a T60. I drove by your, oh, okay. Yeah, Brian did drive by the Kubota dealership. He's looking at a T66. Cool, man. I know a lot of the earlier T66s, the earlier serial numbers, we were having issues, electrical problems and stuff like that. But the later serial numbers here, they've got a lot of changes and they've made a lot of upgrades and stuff like that. So very, very nice machine on the T66. Delco Dave, welcome back, man. So you tested the pump we were talking about last week, right? The hydraulic fluid worked. Oh, that's right, because you had water in the tank, right? For the hydraulic fluid, it worked out wonderfully. I was able to get more fluid out and a lot faster, even in the cold weather. Yeah, that's, like I said, I've used that method. So what we did is Delco Dave, he said he had water kind of milky, I think is what she said, in the hydraulic oil, where we were talking about how the best way to drain that, kind of flush the system. And like I said, I like to use the auxiliaries because the machine is a giant pump, you know what I mean? And if you just try to drain the tank, you don't get out as much as you do as if you just turn the machine on. We hook a hose to the auxiliary port and just pump it into a bucket or a tank or whatever. And you want to stop pumping as soon as you start getting air out of that line. Turn the machine off as quick as you can, and that'll keep from damaging anything. I've never had an issue with it. I've done that for many, many, many years. So good. I'm glad it worked out for you. And you get about 20 to 30% more oil out of the system when you do it that way. And then you can refill it. So I know I had another comment in where was it? I guess it was just in the general comments. There was a same thing that Dave they had an issue with, the best way to flush the system out. And how many times did you actually flush that system, Dave? I know sometimes for me, it takes 3 or 4 times to really get it kind of clean out. So let us know how many times you had to do it till it cleaned out for you. I was Justin Jose. How are you, buddy? Looking forward to an update. Let's see. Finalizing your filter tool. Have y'all been able to use it much? It's been busy between work, manufacturing. No problem, man. This guy, he designed this tool right here. It's still on my desk. We've pulled on it a couple times. I haven't actually changed a filter yet this week on the new R series, but we have just put it on different ones. I put on a few other machines, and what we're doing is this is kind of a prototype. So this is for the R series and the R2 series excavators for our new fuel filters, the fuel water separator that has the glass bowl on the bottom of it. Well, Bobcat does not offer a tool to get that glass bowl off. So he has designed this tool to perfectly, you can see the notches here, perfectly fits around that glass bowl, because we were using a filter wrench or a pair of pliers or something. And if you crack that bowl, that's like an $80 bowl. And this is a lot cheaper than $80. But, those are like, they say that those filters are good for 1,000 hours. I wouldn't run them that long. We like to change those right around 500. So I just haven't had an opportunity to do a full-on change on that, but we will very soon put this to the test. So awesome, man. We're really excited about this, and we'll get a video on it as soon as we get an opportunity to do that. So again, appreciate that. No rush. We placed a big order with them. We should have them, I don't know, pretty soon, I hope. Brian says he doesn't think the 650 is the right machine for me. I get it, because I think we talked about the new M3 series 650 might have been a good option, because I love the 650. But I mean, they're both good machines. Like I said, they brought the 650 back after they discontinued it and started making the R series. They brought it back because of customer demand. But you don't have the one-piece cab, the pressurized cab. They say it's a little pressurized on the M series, but not nearly as much as the R series, not nearly as quiet. So yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, they're both good machines, but I think for operator comfort and all, I think the T66 is the way to go, man. So what's Douglas Smith got? A local fab shop that stocks plates for $150. They might want to check with fab shops in their area. That's a good idea. If someone was set up to make those plates, because there are a lot of, different pieces to that attached plate, or repair the one you have. But if there's a lot of rust on it, yeah, I don't know. But either way, yeah, a local fab shop. It kind of surprises me on some of these fab shops at how reasonably priced they are, in our area when they do stuff. You always think it's going to be a ton of money, but yeah, that was going back to that attach plate. I'm sure theirs is have someone else or get a second opinion on that. But I've seen quite a few aftermarket manufacturers on those plates. Well, I need that tool for the T66. Yeah, you will. The T66 will have that new style fuel filter with the glass bowl on the bottom of it. So hopefully we will have those on our website before long. I know he's making these, I believe, one at a time. Is that right, Justin? And I know we placed a big order on them, and we'll help them get these out. But yeah, you'll need that for this, not right away, because again, like I said, they are 500. Bobcat even says the fuel filters good for 1,000. I think even in the operator manual, they don't actually give a recommendation on when to change the fuel filter, because it's kind of a case by case basis. But rule of thumb, or kind of, what do you say, through the grapevine, I guess, how we heard it, they do say 1,000 hours. Is that what you're looking at? Because I don't think they give a
first service for the fuel filter is 1,000 hours.
Yeah, so they're saying 1,000 hours. So. But on the operator's manual, I don't think they say it. But yeah, to get that glass bowl off, they're really tight. So to keep from breaking it, you would. I mean, I've been doing it for years, but we have had guys in the shop break those bowls, and then that's an $85 mistake plus tax, and if you have to order it. So so he just pulled it up. It's showing $76 online. But then you've got shipping and tax on top of that, because then it's $99 to get free shipping. So yeah, so you're going to be $90 on that. So yeah. So Dave, we were just talking about how many times it took him to flush that hydraulic system. He says it's 3 times now, and it's looking pretty good. So that's usually what I find, about 3-4 times to get it good and clean. Like between 3 and 4, I'll run it a little bit longer and help flush all that stuff out. So, hey, Micah Wood, welcome back. Yes, he made that tool on a 3D printer, and I'm not super familiar with 3D printers, but some of the stuff I see kind of looks questionable, but this thing is solid. I don't know if it's the material that he's using or what it is, but this thing is very stout. I mean, no flex or anything to it. I don't ever see us wearing it out or breaking that. That thing should last many, many years. But welcome back, Micah. Good to see you here. Timber Farms, hi from Michigan. Spent part of the day working on 773 third function, only working one way. What's the third function?
Gas and auxiliaries.
Oh, the auxiliaries. Oh, okay. The auxiliary function only working one way.
That's cool.
So what attachment is it? Number one, and number two, it's hard to say when you use the paddle switch. The paddle switch on the thumb is what makes it go left and right. Has it ever worked? Is this machine new to you? I guess there's a lot of questions we could ask on that, but I would suspect it's either the stem in the control valve. You got two stems on either side of the control valve, which lets your auxiliaries work in either direction. And what you do is you open and close the stem to allow pilot pressure to move your spool in either direction. So it could be in the handle, it could be one of the coils, it could be the stem. Yeah, that one's hard to say. I don't know. What series do you have? Is it a C series, a G series? G series will give you codes. 77. Did they make a 773 G series? I think they did.
Breaks right now.
I think they did. Is mine a G series? No, it's not a G series.
It's the triangle or square headlights?
Let's see. Mike Stoger from Florence, South Carolina, just saying, yeah. Mike Steger. Am I pronouncing that right? Maybe. Awesome. Thanks for being here, Mike. Ray's Lawn and Landscape. Do you, when Bobcat, gonna put in a roll-up door? I don't think they. I don't know of any plans that they do plan on doing that. I know Kubota's like the only one that does. Everybody's got a swing open door, it seems like. And when you talk to people about what they love and hate about a Bobcat, or if they're comparing the two, it's always that roll-up door. But there's a hell of a lot more to those machines than that roll-up door that makes it a lot better. But not everybody does love them roll-up doors. I guess they have issues over time. They rattle, they break. They always seem like they're having issues with those doors. So as of right now, I don't know of any plans of Bobcat putting in a roll-up door. Not on these R series. I'm sure these R series will be out probably 10, 15 years like the M series.
Wow.
Before they'd make a change like that. So Bobcat 873 F series, my favorite, with a hole in the oil pan, either from a rock under or sagging rubber mount. Would it be easier to pull the motor and pump on the skid or just the motor? So that's a good question. I kind of do it on a case-by-case basis. On an 873, you're probably going to be okay. You could do it either way. For me, if I'm just working on the motor, I pull just the motor, just to keep from spilling all your hydraulic oil and having to change all that, all them extra lines. Then once you open up your hydraulic system, you've got potential contamination, intrusion, and all. So if you can get away with not pulling the whole hydraulic pump, I would probably just try to pull the engine out myself. And that's usually how I do it if I'm just doing engine work. To each his own. I find I just use a different method if I'm pulling the engine versus the whole entire skid. But either way, it comes out just as easy for me. So in your case, I would just try to pull the engine. So for electrical issues, since you're independent, this is a question for electrical issues. Since you're independent now, have you switched to diesel laptop to diagnose harder issues or reprogram injectors? No, I guess diesel laptop does have an option. I'm still using full-on Doosan software because we've got 3 softwares now. And I don't think diesel laptop has all 3 of those. For the V1, we call it the original Doosan engine with the Delphi injectors. We have to have an engine software, and we have to have a after treatment software, which is both Doosan, but they're 2 different softwares because we got a Bosch after treatment with a Delphi fuel system. So that's 2. And then on our new engines, now we've got a Bosch fuel system on the new engine. So that's a 3rd Doosan software. So it's easier for me just to stick with Doosan. Next question will probably be, where do you get that? Yeah, that's a whole nother issue. Yeah, that's kind of tough. It's kind of but there's plenty of.
You acquired it.
Well, there's ways to get it and it's allowing people to get access to your computer via Teams, which I don't like. So what I do is I buy a dedicated blank laptop I don't put any of my Google accounts or any of my personal accounts or anything on it. Just buy a $300 or $400 laptop off Amazon, and then give them access via Teams to do whatever uploading they need to do. That's kind of the safest way. I would never let someone from another country access my my computer for something like that, unless it's a aftermarket style. But then you still have the database, the UVIM to connect to the engine. So I digress. Where are we at? How do these keep moving? Trying to keep up with the chat. Thanks, everybody. I'm trying to get to these questions as quick as we can. Let's see. Is there any, Jamie Pate says, is there anything that you recommend for a wheeled skid steer for better traction in forestry use?
Root or Yeti. Or chain it.
As far as is tire tread, or like in over the tire chains, or even a metal track, does good. I used to run metal tracks on my wheeled skid steers, and I loved them, man. They were freaking awesome, and they would hold up pretty good in the forestry use, I would think. So I don't know if that's what you're asking, or even a tire chains. I don't know how much, or is it mud that you're dealing with, or just climbing over trees and stuff like that. If it's stuff like that, because you're probably running a head or something like that, I would probably go with those metal, like the lowgering over the tire tracks. I had good luck with those. I mean, they're freaking awesome. And you just take them off. Once you learn how to put them on and off, super easy to put on and off. And I'd take them off when I didn't need them. Brian, Ray, I watched your videos on the 753. Oh, Ray must have a different video. So I'm gonna have to, Ray's lawn. Will you write that down for me, or I have to look at his channel? Maybe we can subscribe to that, I guess, if he's doing Bobcat videos or something there too, man. Yeah, any information helps for sure. Samuel has a T66. I'm assuming the symptom is the tilt. The tilt. What's he saying? Tilt vines or hesitate.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Phil, I've checked the big tilt lock valve and the tilt check valve are all okay. Do you think that the pins are just swollen from?
Scroll. No second post.
Okay, yeah, we'll wait on that one. I'm not real clear on that one right there, but Bruce Jensen from Patriot Rentals, thanks for being here. Bruce is probably the next best mechanic I've ever met in my life. Good guy. We always bounce ideas off each other when we need to. So cool, man. Nice to see you here. Brian is still on the fence, leaning toward the T66. Yeah, that's a tough decision for me too. I don't know which one I'd buy. I wonder what the price difference is in the 650 and the M3 650 and the 66. Let's see. William has the 873 with the oil pan. So I guess we just talked about that one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Greg has a 2017 S770. Foot pedal broke on top of the butterfly valve 5 times. 3 on one side, 2 on the other. The bolt. Factory said I'm pulling handles too far back. Never happened on my 2011. What's the butterfly valve? I'm not. The foot pedal broke the top of the butterfly valve 5 times. 2 on the other, right at the bottom bolt.
Can I take a stab at the serial number?
Yeah, 2017 S770M series. I'm not sure what you're referring to as the butterfly valve. That's not the pintle levers, is it? I'm not sure. Let me know on that. I'm not sure what's breaking on that butterfly valve. I'm not sure. let's see. Timber Farms on the machine, 10 plus years, 9,000 hours of running a wood splitter. When it quit, pretty sure I've narrowed it down to the coil. Thanks for information videos. Yeah, and one way to check that, we were talking about the coils on the control valve. Just swap them, left or right, and then see if it works in the opposite direction. That'll tell you right away, because those little auxiliary valves are expensive, so I always swap them and see if the problem follows or stays in the same spot. That'll kind of help you narrow it down. SoCal Gunner says, why is my 2016 T870 problematic? 2,400 hours and seems the whole machine is falling apart. Is it true that almost all T870s are very problematic? I don't find that to be true, at least in my experience. The 870 is kind of its own animal, large frame machine, 100 horsepower. The ones that I see that have a lot of problem are always used in forestry, running mulching heads and stuff like that. That's the ones that get just beat all to hell, and that's why they fall apart. I'd be interested in, like, what kind of problems are you having? Are you having multiple, that's like the same problems having up over and over again? Do you have the spring suspension on that? What do you call that? Roller suspension on it? Those are pretty.
The automatic tensioner on the track.
Oh yeah. So if you do have the automatic tensioner, those weren't. Yeah.
Let's not forget DEF.
Okay. Then you got the DEF system. Then you got roller suspension. Okay, I'm starting to put it all together. Hell, maybe they are problematic. But yeah, what kind of issues are you having? Like I said, the most problems I see are from the forestry machines. But other than that, I think they're really good machines, man. Jeff says, thank you for all you do, Brady. And of course, your coworkers. Have you been a big help for a while? I want to farm field service company. Your videos have helped many times. Thanks. Well, thank you, Jeff. I'm glad they help, man. If you ever have any ideas or need any help, yeah, give us a shout and let us know, man. I appreciate that. I'm glad that it has helped you out. William watched one of our videos where we pulled the motor and the back right hand bolts did not look like a good time. You used a wobble socket and a wobble joint to get them out.
Part of that 250.
No, it was a 773, I think. So the one, yeah, and I've got an engine out of, it's over here. Same thing. So what I do is I use and it depends on the machine, but yeah, it kind of sucks to get those back bolts out. What I do is I use a universal joint, so a 1/2-inch drive universal joint with a 1/2-inch drive universal socket. So universal joint, universal 19 millimeter socket. So it's 2 universal joints on a long extension, and I use my impact, and that way they kind of go over the pump. So take that steering plate off your pump, and you said you had an 800 series or whatever, so you might have that center charge pump, so you'll have to like just lift your plate up and just spin it around where the charge tube comes out of the center of the pumps, and you can kind of get over the top of that pump easier. And once you break them loose, my tip for that is once you break them loose and back them out and you get the engine out, with the engine out, chase those threads, run a tap in those threads, and also on your bolts, make sure you can run them in and out by finger tight. And that way, when you put the engine back in, you get them all lined up. Then they go in a lot easier. But yeah, the hardest part is breaking them loose because they're tighter than hell. So hopefully that helps. Two universal joint, universal socket, go over the pump. There you go. Try that. Ray's had T190. What do you see? Oh, it skipped. That thing's moving so fast. Let's see. You had T190 for a small machine is a great machine, really good beginner. The T190s were really good machines. They really were. They had a bunch of different variations of those T190s, didn't they? And yeah, different serial numbers, different. They had turbo, they had the non-turbo, they had the indirect injected, direct injected engines. So they went through a lot of variations of T190s. They were good, man. 86K, 86,000 for the T650 roughly is what he's quoting, and 66,000. No, what?
That's a huge difference.
Wow. I'd be buying me 2 T66s. Dang, I can't believe the 650s. That I guess so, man.
The platinum version?
Well, they didn't have a platinum M series, did they? No, they didn't have a platinum M series. Yeah. Dang. I think it's a little more machine than the 66, but I don't think it's $20,000 more. Eastern Equipment, welcome back, man. How do I like the new Bosch system compared to the Delphi fuel system? Any problems with the injectors yet? That's a great question. Last time I was in school, and I was around a bunch of other Bobcat techs. We all kind of had our things we didn't necessarily like about the Bosch system. And then they asked us how many injectors we have changed. And about 20 people in the class, no one raised their hand. So to this day, I have not changed a Bosch injector on the new system. So that should tell you something right there. But not only that's kind of why we went to the Bosch system, is because all the Delphi system was so susceptible to contamination. But a lot of that had to do with the fuel filter that we were using in the early years. We have since upgraded the fuel filter on the M series on the Delphi system, and I've seen a lot lower amount of injectors we've changed. But since we've got a much better filter system, I mean, everything about our filter system on the Bosch, now we have an electric primer pump that we're actually feeding it. So I get we've got kind of like the what do you call it, the fast systems that removes the air out of them. They're self-bleeding systems. So we got a much better fuel system. Just a supply, filter, aeration, everything that we take care of before it even gets to the high pressure pump. So all that into consideration, I have not yet changed a Bosch injector, and they've been out 2020. So yeah, several years now. Yep. So they are doing really good, but I think a lot of that has to do with just a much better pre-treatment on that. So. William says we're working a lot on the cold, out in the cold. Where do you get your gloves? Seem to work well, keeping your hands warm while manipulate your fingers. So that's the hard part about working in the cold. Yes, we do work in the cold a lot, but we can't wear thick gloves to do the work that we need to do. So what I'm using is just a latex, nitrile, I'm sorry. GloveWorks is where I get those. GloveWorks is a company that makes them. I get them on Amazon. And it's just a nitrile glove. It doesn't really keep my hands warm.
It does have that grip.
Yeah, they have a textured grip to them, so you can grab stuff a lot better. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm used to it. I've worked in much colder environments, like up in North Dakota when we were up there, and it was nearly impossible to keep your hands. Like I can keep my body warm. I can dress up and keep everything warm, but it's your hands that'll freeze. So if we get a machine running, I'll use the exhaust to warm my hands up or something like that, or jump in and out of the truck if we have to. But GloveWorks is the gloves that I use, and that's my favorite. I've used the Ravens too. The Ravens are pretty good, but they tear a little easier than that. So then Brian's going back to the Kubota. So a comparable Kubota is about 78K, so almost right in the middle. So yeah, I'd go, if the price was an issue, I'd go for the T66. John, thanks for the question. He's got an S510 with then arms slowly lowering, like very slow. What would you attack first? So first question I was asked, do the arms still drift when you raise the arm bar up or you turn the machine? So if the arms are in the air and you turn the machine off, do they still drift? So there's several things that could be. The first thing that we always have to kind of assume it's going to be is the cylinder packing itself. So basically just a cylinder seal kit. The next thing that we check on that is usually what we call the the manual lowering valve. It's got that red cap, so it's going to be to the right of your seat, kind of down below you, so you kind of lift and pull up on it. Sometimes that manual lowering valve tends to leak by a little bit, so that's an option. So let me know if they still drift with the arms up. If they do, I would suspect cylinders. If it doesn't, then I would suspect could be something in the control valve. But let's determine that first. That's two of the main places, is usually a cylinder packing or that manual lowering control valve. And then after that, we get into port reliefs and load checks and stuff like that. So there could be a lot to that. Let's see, 7753 with the Kubota 2203 broke the tip off a glow plug in his section without pulling the head or buying it out. So so he broke the tip off a glow plug, probably trying to back it out. What happens is they get carbon that builds up around the tip of the glow plug. So when you back it out and try to get it out of the hole, it gets stuck in the hole, and then you pull on it and it'll break off in the hole. If it's broke off in the hole, have you tried to just use engine compression. Just start the engine. Of course, don't be anywhere near it because that thing will shoot out like a bullet if it does come loose. So I've done that and had success. If it's fallen into the head, then in that point you're going to have to pull the head off. But you say there is a $300 tool to get the glow plug out. I'm not sure what that tool is. I haven't used that. I would imagine it'd be some type of drill bit, but you're still going to get contamination and stuff down on top of the piston. So the safest way, if you just can't blow it out with engine compression, the safest way probably is going to pull the head. So let's see. SoCal Gunner just replaced 5 quill springs. Hydro fan controller keeps tripping out, overheating when running hard, even after Bobcat maintenance. Now my tilt cylinders are bleeding down. Oh, is that the 870? I think so. Is that 5 quill? So that's probably the spring return keeps tripping out. The fan controller. So the fan controller is overheating when running hard. Are you running a mulching head on that? That's kind of the reason we went to this R series, because we just can't keep those 870s cool when you're running a mulching head. That is just yeah.
Because you have the T870.
Yeah, the T870. Okay, yeah. And now his tilt cylinders are bleeding down, and again we just the tilt cylinders. So tilt cylinder is kind of the same thing as if you're running a heavy mulching head or something. It probably is those. Yeah. Well, sometimes we blow port release. So that goes back to where we were just talking about the lift cylinders leaking down. And will they stop tilting down when you lift the arm bar up or shut the machine off? So yeah, it sounds like you got all kinds of things going on with that. But if you're on a mulching head in forestry, I don't know if that's what you're doing, but it's just hard on those machines, man. Alex is from Tennessee. Any idea why his 595 is throwing codes about IMB? I replaced the Barrow one and runs fine. What's the Barrow one? I reinstall the used one and no more codes for a few days, then started again to code. Oh, the borrowed one. Okay. So T595 got IMV codes. He changed it out, and it's kind of intermittent. So a lot of times what we see on the IMV valve is not a bad IMV valve itself. It's usually that pigtail that plugs into it is bad. And that may be why when you change it in and out, it works a little bit and it's not. So usually it's a pigtail, but it's hard to find that pigtail. Sometimes you can just bend those pins down a little bit. And if all of that looks good, your pigtail, it does go all the way in and it snaps. You got to hear it click and lock on to the IMV. That's the biggest thing. So a lot of times when they're coating out, that's what it is. We also have what we call a crossover harness. So if you follow your engine harness up and over to the right side of the engine, kind of right there in front of the ECU, you'll see it kind of breaks out to like a 4-pin Deutz connector is what we call it. And that is always prone to rubbing. And what happens, the machine bounce around and it'll either hit a metal spot where that engine harness comes up and over the engine. It's also zip tied to a metal bracket. Sometimes it'll rub through right there and cause that. And that crossover harness will sometimes rub somewhere because it's kind of just floating in there. And so maybe you're getting intermittent issues like that through a worn wire in that harness. But that's the 2 most common places to check. So the IMBs are pretty stout. It's rare, very rare ever to have to change one. It's usually a wiring harness issue or in that pigtail. So hopefully that helps. Let me know what you find. Yeah, and that's what that sounds like it's what you already assume it's a wiring issue. So I would agree with that. Pigtail or a wire issue, and that's the 2 most common rub spots you'll see on the 595. Windsor T450 that drops the boom when I try and raise the boom while operating it with full bucket of material. Why does this Bobcat mechanic said they do that? To me, that's not safe. Would that T450 happen to have ride control on it? And does it do it with ride control turned off? But either way, it should not do that, because what you've got in your control valve is what's called a load check. So your the pressure, your arms are weighted, right? So you've got hydraulic pressure pushing back on the control valve because of the weight in the bucket pushing on the hydraulic cylinder. It's pushing back, it's pressure. And that's on top of a load check. Now we have to increase pressure from our main pump. So whether you're moving your joystick or foot pedal or whatever, that pressure has to exceed the pressure pushing down on the load check. We have to exceed that pressure to open the load check for oil to go by. So the load check is what keeps that from happening. So it sounds to me like there's a load check issue. It could be several different things. I'd have to kind of see when it does it, how it does it, and kind of make a determination from there. Just based off a couple sentences, it's hard to say exactly what it is, but yeah, it should not. You're right. It's not safe, and it should not do that if everything is working properly. But I wonder, does the T450 even have ride control on them? I'm not sure, or if that was an option. But that would be one thing to check. So awesome. Alfonso Tate says the new electronic controlled equipment DEF emissions are junk. Yeah, I mean, the government makes us do it, unfortunately, and we're all trying to catch up. We're trying to get you the most horsepower, the most efficient possible way we can. And the government says anything over 75 horsepower, you have to run DEF. We did have issues with so did everybody. I don't care if it was an over-the-road truck or what. Everybody had DEF header issues, quality control issues and stuff like that was coming from that DEF header. I mean, and everybody did. We since had updates, and they're doing a lot better. As long as you take care of them, use good quality DEF, don't let them run out of DEF, keep your codes clear. So I don't see them as junk. I see it as more kind of frustrating, I guess. But like I said, you can't run without it. Technically, I mean, I guess you can, but you can't run without it from a dealer standpoint. You have to have it. So what do you do? So back to that glow plug. It's stuck in the hole. Try blowing out with compression after putting stuff in it to loosen the carbon. Thanks from I will watch you often. Yeah, if the compression didn't blow it out, yeah, it kind of gets
projects.
Yeah, it does. It kind of, yeah, you've put lubricant and stuff on top of it, it still won't blow out. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't dare say pop it down. I mean, how much of the glow plug is in there? I mean, I don't know if you can get that. Well, then you have to find out which cylinder it is and get that piston top dead center, and maybe you can just tap the glow plug tip down and hit the top of the piston and then try to run that compression. Maybe try to do it like that back and forth a couple times. I don't know. I would try something like that before I pulled the head off. For sure, that's an unfortunate situation, but yep. SoCal Gunner says, yeah, the T870 ran multiple attachments, including mulch-ahead and a lot of row work. Need a machine that can take a lick and keep on ticking. What would you recommend for dedicated mulching work? So the main, from what I hear from the mulching people, is running a steel track machine like the ASVs. It's like the ASV has machines that are kind of dedicated for that has the big high flow coolers mounted to those machines. They're more designed for forestry work. Yeah, the T870 they just can't quite handle it. But ASV steel track machine is probably what you need to look at. I know it's going to be pretty expensive, but so are the 870s, Let's see, Charger Mopar. I have run diesel engines until the glow plug tip blows out. So yeah, that's kind of what I meant. Yeah, if just turning it over doesn't blow it out, yeah, try to run it. Does it maybe heat it up, or it just eventually loosens up as it gets hot, eventually blow out? So there you go. Shut the door, make sure no one's around, and just let it blow out. You'll hear it. You'll hear that compression blowing by once it comes out. So I would definitely try something like that. Thanks for recommending that, Mr. Mopar. Watched you to change axle and bearings. Yeah, we've done a couple of those. Oh, Russ is back from Tulsa. He's invited us to Tulsa.
Ooh.
So we will try to make that a point to make it down there sometime. So it doesn't have ride control. I would be suspecting something in that load check. I would pull that load check, swap it out with so you've got 3 load checks. You've got one for the aux as well. So you've got but I think the load check on the lift circuit is built into the lift part. So you could probably change out the aux. I'd have to look up that control valve, but I think you could swap the aux and the tilt. Wait, no, you've got lift. I'm sorry. This is a lift or tilt. This is a lift drift.
That's a lift.
Lift drift. Okay. Yeah, so it's a kind of a different style on the load check on the lift there. But Kyle will look that up real quick so I can just take a look at it real quick and give you a better idea of what's going on. Thanks. I kind of figured it wasn't right. T86 with Vel motor always gives a filter plugged.
Yeah.
See, on the T86, I'm not sure why it's given a filter plugged code. We've upgraded that, man. We've already dealt with this filter plugged issues, so I'm not sure why it's doing that. How often does it do it? And are you changing the filter and it continues to give you filter plugged codes? Yeah, being that's very fresh machine, still under warranty. Hopefully I can hook that up and actually monitor the pressure on the filter housing there and see why it's doing that. That's kind of unique.
An hour and a half. Thanks.
After an hour and a half. So it's like getting up to temperature. I'm not sure on that T86 why it would be doing that.
Does that have thinner oil in it or thicker oil in it?
Well, it depends on region. The T86 should come with the. Yeah, that's a good question because now we got the 68 and the 46 oil. So did that one get shipped with red or blue oil? No, I think all T86s were shipped with blue oil, if I'm not mistaken. So you should have had the blue oil in that. Is that accurate? Remind me. If it's not, let me know. But that would be the thinner oil, so I wouldn't. But even after an hour and a half, man, that's weird. Yeah. All right, Dave's got to run, but thanks for being here, man. Appreciate it, and thanks for letting us know on that, fleshing out that system, how that worked out for you. Let's see. I tore the drive off the left side of the machine. I found the brass bushing that is supposed to be in the brake shaft was simply loose in the bore. Yep. Well, what was, I wonder, we'd have to remind me what this guy, I think he was having a brake issue on that. But yeah, that brass bushing does wear out. Yeah. How does it? Oh, I came up with this idea trying to support the brake shaft drum as a design flaw. Trying to support the brake shaft with the brake drum is a design flaw. What are your thoughts? I'm not sure on that. But before that, when we were talking about def headers, Windsor said that they had, Komatsu track hose broke down a month because of bad def headers. Must have had a bad run of them. Like I said, everybody did. Because most of them are made by Bosch or one of these, engine companies. They're all kind of coming out of the same factories. Everyone uses the same parts. So, yeah, there was, several years of bad ones. So, thanks for bringing that up. The brake shaft with the brake drum. Trying to think of which motor he has and why he was doing. I don't think it's a design flaw by any means. Those motors have been tried and true and proven over the years. I'm not sure why it would be a design flaw, but I'm not an engineer on those motors either. So, let's see. Charger Mopar. We were going back to that glow plug tip that broke off. He says he had a lot of old abused equipment. It took 2 months to blow out a broken glow plug tip out of his 7.3. That's funny because that's the most of the experience I have on glow plug brake tips breaking off were in the 7.3s. It sure was, man. So
Shader Waters confirms it was blue.
Oh, it was blue. So you got the right oil in it. So I'm not sure what's going on. Let's see. Faux nickel. I noticed you're not alone wrenching on Bobcats. Just curious, are the new guys also former Bobcat techs? Yes, my branch manager, parts service supervisor, writer, all trades, Kyle. He was actually my boss at Bobcat, and how times have changed.
Yep.
I'm just kidding. But anyways, he does a great job. I couldn't do this without him. Yeah, Mike, my other guy, he was also a Bobcat employee. Our sales guys were all at Bobcat. Yeah, well, yeah. So basically, our whole company now is all former Bobcat employees, and it's sad too because we all loved that company. We really did. And then once the corporation, okay, enough of it. Anyways, Eastern Equipment is coming back with a little information on the ASV. Over 50 gallons a minute. Geez, ASV 120, 50 GPM. That's pushing it. Was that a steel track machine? I'm just curious. On the 120, I think you get them both ways, but yeah, from what I hear, they're good machines. They're just more suited for that type of work. Russ is saying the shaft isn't really supported and it wears the bushing. I don't know. Well, the brake piston slides in and out of that bushing. That bushing just supports it. Unless that bushing's wore out. But I mean, I've changed a couple of them, as many motors as I've rebuilt. It's kind of rare that those bushings go bad. But I guess it does happen. Yep. Can someone delete equipment like trucks? Yeah, I mean, they do it all the time. Especially some guys in Canada. I mean, if you look hard enough, you'll find someone's got a delete code and a process for everything out there. Do we do it? No. But can it be done? Absolutely, it can be done. Yep, Doosan's, the IT4 Kubotas could be done. Yeah, they can all be done. But the Doosan, the thing about the Doosans, we're not using DPF, we're using SCR, and it's a much more tried and true system. So you don't really have a lot of issues out of the SCR system. If I had a DPF, like the IT4 Kubotas or a Kubota engine with the DPF, yeah, I'd probably be looking at doing something like that too. I mean, not really, just in case the EPA is here. Listen, I would never do that. But if I was in Canada, maybe I would look into doing that. Bob says, wondering if Bobcat still has a 14-pin option for the newer R series. I heard they were moving away from offering it besides the kit. Is there a good way to run 14-pin attachments? I don't know why.
Out of stock.
Okay, so it's out of stock, but they do offer it, but they're offering a different controller, it looks like, isn't it?
It's a separate controller.
So it's a different controller, it looks like. We're just looking at the parts kit here. So it does show there is a part number for it. It is a different controller. So what it's called is an RACD, a remote auxiliary control device. So I don't know why they changed that, because the new R series will still work with the old ones. But even if you got an older controller, even if you didn't get the 14-pin kit, you could change over your attachment. You could just put the remote auxiliary control device on the attachment itself. That's how I do it, and just convert it over to a 7-pin. So I convert everything over to a 7-pin. I don't try to take the machine and put a 14-pin on it. I convert the attachment to 14-pin. And you're still using a remote RACD. It's just where you put it on the machine. That's the way the kits work. So for me, it's easier to swap the machine over. So you still have an option there. If you want to run a 14-pin attachment, just put the RACD on the attachment, and they're all basically the same plugs on all the coils. We just have to make it work with your attachment. I've done it for quite a few machines. Special applications like big reels they use to roll out in the oil fields. They're rolling out all the water hoses, the big giant black hoses and stuff. We had to convert those over to 7-pin attachments and stuff. So that's just the way I like to do it. So there's plenty of options. It's the 14-pin or a way to run your attachment will never go away. I think the ACDs will always be available. So
Clay's got a couple of posts, but it's oil running down the back of his T750 down the back of the block.
So I have a 13 T750 Kubota engine. It has wild oil down the back of the block. Covered. Any ideas? So engine oil on the back of a 750 V 3.8 3800 Kubota engine in that. I don't know. I'd have to get in there and see. Turbo maybe. Turbo drain back tube or pressure tube. I mean, it depends on where on the back. So what I do when I got an oil leak like that, I can't find, raise the cab, go in there from the back, steam clean it, pressure wash it, purple power it, whatever you got to do. So the biggest thing is we have to get it clean. And once we get it clean, then we can kind of look in there and just kind of trace down where the oil leak's coming from. So always start by cleaning it and see if maybe you can track it down from there. So back to that big old ASV, he had rubber tracks on that, but I think they have both options on that ASV. So thanks for
flow rate on that came out spec wise at 52.5 gallons per minute.
So Russ says he watched a teardown of a T300. I was trying to find out the orientation of the seal that is metal and pressed into the brake housing. There was not a lot of damage in this motor. There was a lot of damage in this motor. Let's see, the seal that is metal and is pressed into the brake housing on a T300. So you got the old style motor, the seal that is metal. Why am I drawing a blank? I don't know. There's a metal seal in there. We've got the metal piston, of course. We got the brass bushing in there. We got the shaft seal, and then the brake disc themselves are all metal. That's where you usually see all that. Those brakes will just destroy themselves, they'll weld themselves together, and it's just nothing but a big pile of metal in there. Just to refresh my memory, let me look at this parts breakdown real quick. I don't see a metal seal. That's just the big Bellevue washer there. Unless it's just a spacer, but I don't know a metal seal other than the face seal, but that's not in the brake housing on that one. Wheel down the back of the block. Sorry, no problem. Can't type. I can't talk either. So Kubota, SoCal Gunner. So Kubota 97.2 wouldn't do the same as a T870. What about the Case DL550 track machine? I was looking at ASV 135, DL550 97.2. So I would still lean toward the ASV. I'm not super familiar with the Case. We work on a lot of Case, but I'm not familiar with the DL550. Kubota, nope, not for what you're doing. Absolutely not. That 870 would run circles around that 97.2. I mean, yeah, I would still be leaning more toward the ASV just based off the type of work you do. So what does a 873 Advantage series mean, Kyle? Advantage series, wasn't that just a marketing term that was on the when they were, because that's back when you want to help me out here?
I'm trying to think. No. I can't remember the 873 Advantage series.
What am I thinking? When Ingersoll Rand and Clark and all that, and they were changing over, I think Advantage series was a marketing term, wasn't it? I don't know that there was really any advantage over anything else, because even the 763s and all that had that Advantage series sticker on it. Does mine still have that? Just curious. Yeah. So my 763 has the decal on it right here that says Advantage series, but I don't know. I guess I never knew what it meant. I thought it was just a marketing term, but Kyle will look into that and let us know. Let's see. Skid Steer Solutions has some pin conversion kits. I know, yeah, Skid Steer Solutions is a reputable company. We were just talking about Loader Part Source earlier. You're talking about, it's for the 14 pin, yeah. So I guess I didn't mention that. There will always be what they call, because in Skid Steer Solutions, they have the Skid Steer Genius. So the Genius will always be an option from Skid Steer Solutions, from what I understand. It works pretty good. So yeah, you can just plug that right in the 7-pin and convert that over to 14-pin. Thank you for reminding me of that, Brian. I didn't even think of that, but that is definitely a great option. Awesome, man. That's why we do this, man. I can't think and remember everything. We all chime in and help each other out. Good information. Thank you so much. I was just floating amidst the broken brake discs. So usually those are, I think that's probably a shim, Russ, not a seal, because we had to shim the brake disc to make sure we get the right thickness on those, because it's critical to get the right thickness. Once you stack all your disc, I put them in a vise. We have to clamp them down and measure the thickness, and
It's marketing.
we have to shim it. So drummed up push versatility to having a skid steer and a mini X in front instead of a TLB. So yeah, the Advantage series was what we're reading now. Just says it was just kind of a marketing term saying that you have an advantage over using like a, what is that? What's a TLB? Track loader, backhoe or something.
Backhoe,
yeah, you could use a skid steer for everything instead of, so that's your advantage, not having to have multiple.
Yeah, when you pair the two, you're going to be more effective. And more.
Yeah, so Advantage series, as far as I know, is just a marketing term. Yeah.
Looks cool.
Let's see. Jeffrey says, with the injector tester kit you recommended in the previous videos, with what pressure should I test the Bosch fuel injector for leak test, and frequency values should I set for the electric pulse? The frequency does not matter when you're pulsing the injectors. It's just how fast and how much pressure. So for frequency, I just turn it all the way down as slow as pulse as I can. That way you can actually try to build the pressure in your pump. I like to see it hold about, so before I pulse the injector, I like to see it hold about 2,500, 3,000 PSI without leaking out, about the back leak tube or leaking out the tip. So if you're holding 2,500, 3,000 PSI, you're fine in my experience on that. And that's about all you're going to get out of that manual pump anyways, is about 3,000 PSI. But if it's not leaking at that point, it's fine. And like I said, just run your pulse and your frequency just to the slowest you can. And that way it'll kind of just slowly pulse that injector so you can kind of see what it's doing. So Hardal from Guyana, welcome back, man. I know we've talked multiple times. You had some good questions last time.
Mm-hmm.
There was some sort of spring clip I found. I'd have to email
that 570.
Oh, on the brake. Yeah, on the brake. Yeah, there is a spring clip in there for sure. Yeah, spiral clip, I think is what it is. So, Hooter Scooter, can you guys do a basic skid steer hydraulic schematic walkthrough explaining flow, pressure, and major components and how they work to help diagnose issues, better understand our machines? I think I will. So I think very soon what we're going to do is we're going to, it's hard when we work so much to do all the videos that I want to do and help that, but we'll probably start off with a basic pump video, because I know we always have questions on charge pressure. Talk about charge pressure versus main pressure. And then I've got several control valves. What we're going to do is we're just going to completely tear down the control valves and go over every component in the control valve and what they do. In that way, because that's a great point. The better you understand how something works, the better you're able to troubleshoot it. Not everyone knows everything, but if you and not for every circumstance can you troubleshoot based off how it's supposed to work. When we troubleshoot, we usually base it off how it's supposed to work, how everything working normally, and we kind of go down from there. And then once you get like a cracked control valve or something just completely unexpected, it gets difficult. That's just kind of where experience comes into play like that, because even if you understand how something works well, sometimes there's just weird issues. So yeah, we are going to try to do more training style videos and like that. I try to get at least one video a week, but thanks for the suggestion. Yeah, we'll start with that, the control valve, and then maybe we'll start looking at schematics and stuff at some point. All right, actually fit over the hub of the brake piston. I couldn't find it in the diagram of the 326. Yeah, send me a picture of it to Russ, and I think you should have her email from our website. I'll probably remember exactly what it is once you send it to me. Hardal, V26, the Kubota V2607 oil level dropping. I did a rebuild and the oil level still dropping. No oil leaks. I mean, is it smoking at all? I mean, usually if you're losing oil, it has to go somewhere. If it's not burning it, then it's probably because the 2607 is going to have a turbo on it. You sure your turbo is good? The turbo's not consuming oil. That's almost where I would be looking. I mean, did you put a new turbo on it? Where can the oil go on a 2607? I mean, it can mix with the coolant, but I'm sure you've already checked that. You don't have any oil in there. Yeah, I mean, it's got to go somewhere. If it's not leaking externally, it's got to be burning it. If it's not going into the coolant, so I would.
Does it smoke a lot when you're full RPM?
Yeah, are you getting any smoke on that? So 2607 oil level dropping. Anybody else have any other suggestions? Where would the engine oil be going after doing a full rebuild? I don't know. Russ says he wants to thank us for giving us CR Components information. What a great source. We will definitely hook you up through your channel. Well, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. CR Components, yeah, we've kind of been doing business with them lately. Conan over there, super great guy. They really know their stuff, and they wasn't part of a shim. Interesting. Okay, yeah, I'll take a look at that when you send me pictures. But anyway, CR Components has giving not us, but the user, the owner, operator who wants to fix their own drive motors. They've finally come out and are offering the parts to allow us to be able to afford to rebuild our own motors. So we really appreciate that from CR Components, because I've called all the other major rebuilders. I know you've all heard of them, seen them, but nobody wants to sell you the parts. Nobody wants to send you the brake pack, or they just don't have, I mean, they're rebuilding the motors. They should have the parts, but they don't want to sell them to us or end users. So it's always made it difficult. So CR Components has really stepped it up here lately and given us access to those parts for those Rexroth drive motors at an affordable price, to where we can afford to do those. Because, I mean, Bobcat offers all the parts, but, you know, you lose a brake pack or something like that, it's just not even worth, cost-wise, trying to rebuild it yourself. So let's see. Hardal says, for those Bosch injectors, can the Autel DM? So I'm not familiar with the Autel, I think, isn't it? That's how it's spelled, DM303. I'm not sure on that. Let's see. So Chuck said he just had an 873 Deutz doing that. Of course, blown head gasket, smoked like a banshee. Yeah, that's what I'm assuming. It would be smoking or something. Oh crap! All right, check your. Did you replace the lift pump? Sometimes if the lift pump is bad, this is going back to the V2607, the oil level dropping. Check your diesel. See if your diesel oil looks black, because engine oil can actually go into the lift pump and make its way back into, it'll recirculate through the diesel and get back into the fuel tank. So check your fuel tank and see if your diesel fuel color is black. Thanks for reminding me on that. I don't know why. I guess he didn't remind me, but yeah, that just kind of sparked a memory that I had. I actually did a video on that. It was an 873 with the Deutz, and it was getting engine oil recirculating through the lift pumps back into the tank. So, Lake Scooter Living, are you as mad as I am that your most popular video is about a stock tank?
That your custom.
Yeah. Like I like doing the YouTube thing, you know, and everyone's out there for likes and subscribers and all that crap. That's not what I'm in it for, because you have not seen a single, you could watch every one of my videos. I've never once asked for anybody to subscribe. I like it when people subscribe to the channel organically. And back in my early days, I was just kind of just kicking around, just seeing what people like. And my most popular videos by far have nothing to do with a Bobcat, but not everybody out there has Bobcats. I mean, how many of us actually own Bobcats, or how many of your neighbors have Bobcats or work on equipment? You know what I mean? So it's kind of a niche, kind of a small little closed group. So, I mean, I don't expect my subscribers to be through the roof or anything like that. And so, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to help people instill confidence in their Bobcat equipment. I just enjoy doing it. So that's why I kind of quit doing like the RV stuff. Although that stuff was more popular, I probably could have grown a channel based off doing the other type of outdoor stuff. I enjoy this more. We're doing it all day. We do it every day. So I try to keep my channel focused toward the Bobcat stuff. We did a bunch of electric bike stuff too. The electric bike videos do really good because everyone's interested in electric bikes. Everyone's interested in stock tank pools, with heated stock tank pools, most affordable way to do it. We're still using that pool, as a matter of fact. I was thinking about filling it back up this week, but no, I'm not mad about it at all. But thanks for bringing that up. That's kind of funny, man. Have you ever seen an A300 with steering issues? I've never not seen an A300 that did not have steering issues. Hopefully that makes it more clear. They all have steering issues. I wouldn't own one personally, an A300 or A770, any of those all-wheel steer machines. Man, they're just so overly complicated for what they do. And so yeah, I've never not seen one not have issues. That makes sense. Let's see. Oh, he had to fix an A300 last year. Had a bad steering cylinder. Never a fun repair. My 863 was something got cheaper and broke the timing belt. Yeah, so anything that you do on an A300, A770 is just very difficult. The steering cylinders, the steering valves, our whole pump section is bigger because now we got steering pumps, we got steering filters, we got steering valves that people neglect. It's just, there's so much to those machines, and they're not supported very well through Bobcat. Not many people know a lot about them, so I tend to shy away from them if I can. That's just my opinion. But yeah, and then his 863 broke the timing belt. So you can get lucky. Sometimes 863s will break the timing belt and it won't bend the valves, but if it does, it usually just bends 4 of them, and it's still not a big deal. So Hardell has, going back to that oil consumption issue, he's already changed the turbo twice. No smoke. The oil gets very black fast. The intake side is wet. And it's not a turbo issue. I know we spoke several times over email. Shoot me an email and kind of remind me on that. I'm going to look at that 2607 really close and see if I can come up with anything else. I mean, if you've done the engine rebuild, I'm sure you've already done valve seals and all that stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I know there's on those engines, the glow plugs are internal to the valve cover, I think, on those. I have to go back and see. And maybe they're dripping when the engine's not running. Is there any bypass? I don't know. Yeah, shoot me an email. Remind me to look into that. I'm not sure where that oil consumption is going from. You've already changed the turbo, kind of rolls that out, done a full rebuild. It's not mixing with the coolant. It's not smoking. Is your oil dipstick shrinking? Is it getting shorter? That's not an option.
What model was that?
2607. You can find it in, I think they used it in the early T590. I think they used it in, or S590. Yeah, the first serial number break. Yeah. Awesome. Brian says he liked that hot tub. He wants to build one. I love it, man. We've had it for 4 or 5 years now. And I just leave it outdoors and just let it run, man. I kind of go through those heaters quite often because I don't filter it. This year I'm going to actually filter. I usually just pull the water out of the pool and run through it, and the chlorine and all is just not good on those heaters. So they last about a season. I have to change them out, but $150, I guess, for a heater. Because I like the propane ones. I've tried electric heaters and stuff like that. None of them work quite as good as that outdoor propane heater. So yeah, if you build one, I'd filter that oil going into the water going into those heaters, and hopefully it'll last you a little bit longer. So even though I do repair equipment, it's more fun when I get to run one for someone else. I want to say, yeah, it's much funner to, even an old 610. Gosh, that's awesome. Yeah, I like to run other people's equipment too until it breaks. Can the oil be going into the fuel? Yeah, that's what I was just talking about a second ago, is that if the lift pump is bad, yeah, just check the color of the fuel. So great suggestion, William. That's all I can think of. Let's see. Is this live? I've got a question, please. Currently, we are live. It is 5:09 Mountain Time, so we are still live. Probably for about another 20 more minutes here before we take off, but you could always leave a comment in the section. Sometimes I can get back to answering the comments, but it's hard. But yeah, what's your question? Keep it up. Don't forget about teaching us the secret to cleaning out those bobcats before working on them. I appreciate all the help. I will put up a live feed camera hanging on the fence at the bottom of the yard, and you'll see how it gets done. I don't have anything to do with it. No, I'm just kidding. I love cleaning the machines. It's kind of therapy for me, man. But sometimes it takes hours and hours and hours. Like this machine right here, we're doing a turbo and injectors on. This is the one I just bought, and I know once we get it running, the inside of the cab, it's just inside the frame. It's going to take. I've already allotted close to 8 hours just to get that machine cleaned up to where I want it. So it's tough. It's tough. But yes, I will. Maybe we will talk about that when we get this one running. I see the idea of a skidless skid steer, but the A-series machines are too expensive and problematic. I would rather replace tires and have to fix that complex mess. Yeah, and it wasn't just about tires. It was like being on turf and all. So most of the all-wheel steer machines I work on do belong to golf course maintenance because they actually turn. They don't tear up the ground and all. So, but yeah, they always have issues, man. They are very problematic. Let's see. Mama says she's ready for the hot tub. You know, it's weird because we're in that type. We're like, it's technically still winter, right? But we're like in the 40s and 50s. I could feel it up. But then Kyle was just reminding me that next week it's probably going to be in the 20s. That's just the way it works here in Utah. So I don't want to get it going until we know we're done freezing. So let's see. About how many hours should a 74 horsepower Kubota get giving proper maintenance? Thousands. I mean, usually on those we call a properly maintained engine 5,000 hours. We call it half life. 10,000 hours, you're probably looking about a rebuild. I mean, properly maintained, they last forever. They really do. Stay on top of oil leaks. Stay on top of oil changes. Proper oil. Using every now and then, even using. If it's a mechanical injected, even using a fuel treatment, for proper lubrication of the injectors and all that, you take care of them, they will last a long time for sure. As old as a 763 is, I would rather rebuild the control valve.
So on to Lonnie's question.
Oh, going up to the bucket leaks. 763 bucket leaks down. Yeah, and the thing about that is that's pretty easy to check because the 763 has, so if it's the tilt, because if you say the bucket, I'm assuming you mean the bucket is tilting down. It's only got one tilt cylinder on that, and you can cap those off and then raise, on the ground. I know it's kind of hard to get to those lines, but you can cap the lines off, then raise it up and see if it still drifts, and that'll tell you if it's in the cylinder or not. Because if it's capped off, it should not tilt at all if the seals in the cylinder are holding. But I would probably think, yeah, it's the tilt cylinder itself. Where are we at? Wonder if that V2607 has a hole in the oil pan. I would imagine that he would see that engine oil coming out the bottom of the machine, especially if he's had it out several times. But that's a good point. I think, and another guy was just talking about, rubbed a hole in the bottom of the oil pan is 870. It's not uncommon, and it's not just Bobcat, Caterpillar. I mean, I worked for them many years. Everybody who, if you don't clean out the underneath your engine, it just gets rocks and mud and everything, and it builds up in between the tank or the frame or whatever the case may be, and rocks get up there, and of course your engine's just vibrating on all that material, and it will rub a hole in the bottom of the oil pan. So, yeah, if he's rebuilt that engine a couple times, I'm sure he would have. Hopefully he would have checked that. I know I've talked to him many times before, so I know he's really good. I know he knows what he's doing. So I'm not sure what he's missing, though. I'm not sure. So Justin's still, man, you still here? He's been here the whole time. Or maybe he just put back in. But when changing small, moderate hydraulic parts, do you like to pull a vacuum from the tank to limit fluid loss? I see you did that when you did a coolant flush. So, yeah, I do that on hydraulic systems, too. Just a couple of weeks ago, I did a gear pump on a excavator, and that's an instance where I did use that, because when you pull the gear pump off, all the head pressure of the tank just flushes right through it, or even just pulling the lines off. So I just I put my I just use a cheap shop vac from Walmart. It's a stainless steel shop vac, and I mean everyone's got their own vacuum systems or whatever. I've just used a shop vac for many years, and so yeah, I do that on hydraulic systems all the time. And so when I changed that pump out, I mean I pulled the main feed lines and everything, and I probably lost a few drops of oil, but it just sits there and just gurgles and holds the oil back for you when you use something like a shop vac. So yeah, we definitely do that. So I can stop it with pedal. Rebuilt both cylinders. Oh, okay. Replaced spool valve seals. My question is about the manual. Yeah, if you keep getting into that, that's where I said pedal rebuilt both. So he's the lift or the tilt. If you're on the lift, then that's where that manual relief valve comes into play. I guess it's not really a relief; it's just a manual. I guess it is a relief. Yeah, it's a manual relief. Yeah. So yeah, that's. I think earlier in the conversation we were talking about that someone had drifting issues, and that's kind of, it's not the cylinders, and yeah, you kind of go to that, but then we have to go look at the port release and the control valve too. Earlier, a guy was on here, Delco Dave, where he had a drift issue like that, and it turned out to be an O-ring on one of the port reliefs. So it can be many options. It just depends on the instant or the circumstance in which it's drifting. Is it drifting with the arm bar of the machine off? Is it still drifting the entire time? But yeah, that's an option, that manual relief valve for sure. How has the business grown this year so far? Jeez.
What hasn't changed?
July of last year, I went out on my own, and it was just me and this truck right here. Now we've got 2 trucks and 12 employees now, right? 11 or 12.
Grand total, I think I counted last time was 10 or 11.
Counting Ethan and Angel. So
oh yeah.
11, yeah. 12. So we do have 2 part-time people. So total, yeah, we're about 12 people. We merged Tetrad Group with another rental company. So now we have about 30 pieces of rental equipment in our fleet now. So we've got the service, rental, and sales. So yeah, in 8 months, we have, I never in a million years thought we would have grown this much, this fast, and have so many awesome people on our team that, I mean, really incredible people. I never would have thought they would have joined our team, kind of like my old boss here, but he did. So yeah, thanks for asking, man. We're pretty excited at how fast things have grown, and how that's why we're doing the live events, because I used to be able to do a lot more answering questions and stuff online, but we're just so busy, got so much going on that it's just hard for me to keep all that up. So okay, Lonnie says tilt works fine, so it is on the lift issue. So I'm lost, Kyle. Where are we at in the comments here? Port relief, okay. Let's see. Is it normal for? Yeah, okay. Sorry, I had to scroll back through the comments. See where we're at. Thanks, man. Subscriber here, more for sure. Ray's Lawn. I'm going to look you up. I guess you must have a channel. We're going to check it out. Yeah, lift cylinders need to be checked. He's right. So Charger Moped, thanks for all your help in answering these questions. I mean, this is good for this live feed. People can go back and see this. So yeah, and then check your control valve, right side under the seat in the 763. What's the difference between the rail code 157.22 versus 1076? One's a rail pressure fault. One is low rail pressure, I believe. I think the 7616 is low rail pressure. I think the other rail pressure control fault. And they kind of go hand in hand. Sometimes you will see either code in either. Sometimes you'll have the same problem that'll throw the
157 is using rail discharge.
Rail discharge E0057-22. Yeah, I know the 1076-16. I have to look back at the 157. So.
1076 is IMV current drift high-low. Pressure control error.
Oh, 1076 is IMV.
Yes, it's real pressure control error. IMV current drift high-low.
IMV current drift.
Since we're going back to the wiring harness.
Yeah, it does sound like a wiring harness issue on that one. So I'd have to look up both those codes. I can't remember every code. And put them side by side here and see. 157 what? No, 157.22 rail pressure control fault. Yeah, rail discharge. So, and that's what I thought. Yeah, rail pressure control fault. And what it is, and 1076.16 is. Oh, it should be on the next page. Users or 10s. Anyways. So what happens is rail pressure control fault is your engine has a demand versus actual. So engine says I want 5,000 psi, but your actual just can't meet that. Sometimes it'll say low rail pressure. It'll say rail pressure control fault. I've seen it go both ways. Like we just did two machines here this week, and I think they both had rail pressure control faults because they had two injectors that were leaking by so bad that the high pressure pump, it's high pressure, but it's low volume. It can't meet the demand that the rail pressure or the rail sensor is demanding from it. So I've seen both codes due to low rail pressure. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. I could go into that a lot deeper, but I see them both for the same thing. Is it normal for the T110 track loaders to have difficulty with hydraulic functions, lift, tilt, and throttle in low throttle, but work just fine in full throttle? So it's not just a 110, that can be any machine. What happens is once the gear pump starts to wear, it's less efficient. So we measure our gear pumps in efficiency. And if you have low efficiency, you just don't have enough RPM to create the demand for those hydraulic functions. So at higher RPM, now you're turning that pump a lot faster and you can create enough flow to meet the demand of the function. So I don't think it's just a T110. I think that could be the case for any machine with a worn gear pump. Unlike Mike, I don't miss TikTok. Oh, yeah. He wasn't
he wasn't happy with this.
He wasn't happy. He's like, let's do it Wednesday. And I was like, no, it's TikTok Tuesday. Who does TikTok Tuesday on a Wednesday? So yeah, Mike was upset that he's not here. Oh my gosh. Will you pin? Yeah, we'll have to pin that for him. That's funny. Did he check the PCV valve on that 2607? Great question. It almost seems like it is kind of recirculating into the engine because that does have an EGR. But so that's what I'm thinking. Maybe it is getting, because that's built into the valve cover on that machine, I think. Great suggestion. Skillsborn said, did he check the PCV on that valve on the 2607, which is using engine oil? So that could be the case. Yeah, it's not working correctly and it's just allowing too much ventilation to go through that right back into the EGR. And it's probably, EGR is still recirculating. It's probably burning it again. That's probably why you're not seeing a lot of smoke. So Mama says, dang, Mike is bust. Mike said he couldn't even watch it today. I don't know what he's got going on tonight. He just said he had to leave. He even left early today, but we miss him. We miss him. Can't do it without him. Let's see. Control valve is the manual relief. The control valve, the main control valve is not the manual relief. The manual relief is that little red knob that would be to the right of your seat. A lot of times the red knob's missing, but if you look to the right of your seat, there'll probably be a little bitty stem sticking up. That's the manual relief, is what I'm calling the manual relief, because all the other ones are pressure reliefs. Yeah, and the Mopar. So yeah, so I think he's got you taken care of, Lonnie. So the port relief is not a manual relief. Port relief is a pressure relief. The port relief is what we call them. So let's say you're driving your machine along and you drive your bucket into a wall or a tree or something. That puts a huge hydraulic shock on the system. So that hydraulic oil has to go somewhere, and that's what the port relief, not the main relief, but it's a port relief to allow that shock, that surge in pressure to be relieved. And the port reliefs are there for that. But if they got a bad O-ring on them, so like if you're lifting a lot of heavy material or trying to break stumps out of the ground or working the machine real hard, sometimes you will damage an O-ring on a port relief, and it could cause that. Now, instead of the relief holding pressure, now it's just leaking by the O-ring on that. But again, if we go back to Delco Dave, I wish he was here to kind of leave a link to that, but he he did show how that pour relief works, where he found a broken O-ring on it and caused his drifting issue. So, oh man, how deep are we? Oh, so Brian says, who is my helper tonight? We introduced Kyle already. He is also from Bobcat, so he's our branch manager. He is also my service writer, my parts coordinator, transport guy. Good Lord, how many hats do you wear? Sometimes I forget how much I put on you.
Figure it out every day.
Yet, I always get the opportunity to say, damn it, Kyle.
Damn, put that on a t-shirt.
Whether you did a good job or not is, damn it, Kyle. So, yeah, huge asset to our company. Let's see. All right. Oil loss, if the intake is wet, could be the crankcase ventilation. Yep. So that's two people that are talking about crankcase PVC valve. Yep. Recirculating the EGR and just burning clean. You don't see any smoke. Great suggestion, guys. Thanks for that. Can you mix the old yellow hydraulic oil with the new red stuff, or need to be drain everything out? So what's
claim you can
yeah.
mix it.
Even the old wasn't really yellow. They still called it a red, but it is. If it's all Bobcat, it's all perfectly. You can mix it. They did not change the oil. They just I say they didn't change the oil. The old stuff and the blue stuff are the exact same oil. The red stuff is a 68 now instead of a 46 viscosity. So now they just got two oils. They just rebranded everything, and now they've done another rebrand on that. But no, it's all, as long as it's got Bobcat oil in it, it's all perfectly mixed. You can put red, blue, whatever. It don't matter. It's all perfectly fine. So let's see. The cylinder drift is the lift. Is it the lift cylinder? Can you check the lift bypass? So that's what we were calling the manual relief. That's a better word for it. Lift bypass. That's what it is. Or make sure the pedal is going back to the neutral position. All great suggestions on that. So I would assume, yeah, if he's got a manual control valve, it should check that neutral position. I mean, the actuators, if it was a actuator control valve, but great suggestions on that. Let's see. My friend's Deer 328 kept dropping the boom and found someone damaged the piston inside while rebuilding. Very unusual. I would say very unusual, but that happens more often than not. Rebuilding the cylinder, putting them together. If you don't collapse that packing correctly, you put it inside, it can catch, twist, and get scarred. So it actually happens more than you would think. Let's see. Douglas asked, do the Bobcat reps stop by? Nope. Nope. No Bobcat reps stop by here. We do a lot. Like, I've dedicated my last several years of my life to the Bobcat community and helping out. And we talked to Bobcat corporate. We've done some videos for them. We've done some work for them. But yeah, nobody ever stops by to talk to me. I'm not really sure they even know I exist. But I'm here for you guys, not here for them to. Yeah, I just try to relay information between you and them and what I know and the experience I have. But nope, no Bobcat reps talk to me. Anyways, let's see. Charger Mopaz, he's full of useful information tonight, man, and I appreciate that. He rigged up a hydraulic tester from an old Porta Power hand pump to make my own hydraulic hoses. Yep, we do the same thing. We've got a hose making machine, but what we have to do is, it seems like every time I want to do a test, I have to make a new hose. So it gets frustrating depending on what you want to test and how you want to test it, and trying to do different ways of testing things and different ports to test, and whether we're testing charge pressure, main pump pressure, drive pressure. We've got so many different fittings, but yeah, I always have to make new hoses for that, it seems like. JT says, do you guys see a difference in durability or lifespans with the hydraulic line manufacturers? Better fitting style. Keep doing what you are doing. Great channel. Bobcat uses gates pretty much exclusively. That's what our hose making setup way back here behind that Bobcat sign is our hose. We use all gate stuff too. There's a lot of good ones out there, man. Pertec has great hoses. Parker, Aeroquip. I think there's a lot of good ones out there. I don't think anybody's out there just to make junk hoses, but I think all the name brand ones are really good. I just choose to stick with Gates because that's what we use on all our Bobcat machines, so it makes it easy. Everything just cross references right over. So
Fittings are easy to find.
yeah, fittings are really easy to find for Gates stuff. And I don't know, their numbering system makes more sense to me too, I guess. But what's your approach to repairing common rail systems? When do you decide on replacing the system versus an injector or two? That's probably one of the best questions I've heard tonight, because so many people are so quick to condemn an entire fuel system. I mean, I see it all the time, and maybe I'm just freaking lucky. But we did have some pumps. I mean, the pumps do go out, but it seems like if someone loses an injector or two, like, okay, you need we got to replace the whole entire fuel system. And I just don't always find that the case. We do have to do our due diligence and checking the rail, making sure, if we've got rust or debris or contamination or something in our rail, we might want to change our rail or something. But me personally, gosh, I've worked on thousands, and that's not a job. I work on thousands of these common rail engines. I can remember about 3 pumps that I've replaced. Yeah, it is. I mean, like I said, it depends on who you talk to. I mean, I could be sitting right next to the next best Bobcat mechanic I know, and he's going to say, we change pumps in the whole entire system. They change the pumps, rails, lines, and injectors in one shot. And they say, well, that just saves us a lot of trouble in the long run. But I don't know. We do our due diligence here. We always test injectors. Yeah, we pull the injectors out. We test them on our test bench, and then we run computer simulations on those injectors and see how they're doing. So more often than not, in my experience, like I said, I can't speak for everybody. It's usually just 1 or 2 injectors. You can replace the worst of the 2. I just did 2 machines this week where both of them just got 2 injectors replaced, but we did test all 4. Then once we put the system together, we checked the common rail, we checked the inside of it. And he got contamination from the fuel filters. He had aftermarket fuel filters. We did some videos on how aftermarket fuel filters are branding them with Bobcat labels, so you wouldn't know the difference. And they're just cheap ass filters and allows water and contamination to come through, but it doesn't always take out a whole entire pump. It's usually just enough debris and contamination to take out the injectors. So what we do is we change out with the proper fuel filter and make sure the system's clean, put some injectors in it, throw a little fuel treatment in there, and send it. I've had a lot of good luck. Maybe I'm just lucky. Like I said, I know a lot of great mechanics out there that'll condemn the whole entire system, and I just don't do it. That's just the difference between me and them. And then people tell me I'm crazy for that because they're just going to fail anyways in a couple months. I've done hundreds and hundreds. I've worked on thousands and probably literally hundreds of fuel systems where I've done just injectors and never have another issue out of them. Because once we learn about proper fuel treatment and the right fuel filter and all that, especially with the upgraded fuel filters, we've had a lot less failure in injectors lately. So awesome. A final question on this 2008 T320 from Russ. Lift tilt works great for 15 minutes, then nothing. I was losing hydraulic fluid out of the left motor. Out of the left motor, not sure what's up. If you're losing hydraulic fluid out of the left motor, usually the only place that can come from is the face seal in that. But lift and tilt works great for 15 minutes, then nothing. I was losing hydraulic fluid out of the left motor. Russ, who did this machine for? Didn't take care of it. Let's talk a little closer on this. When you lose lift and tilt, is it blowing oil out of the motor? The reason I ask, because I've dealt with this before, and it turned out to be an internal failure of the control valve, where it was allowing high pressure go into the low pressure circuit or the charge circuit, which was blowing out drive motors. So we'd have to talk a little more and go a little more in depth in that, because I've seen an issue like that before, but I'm not sure if it's the same thing you're having. But what happens is once you get that high pressure from the lift tilt circuit, it'll go into through the control valve into the charge circuit and blow a drive motor seal. But I don't know if that's the same thing, but it could be an option. So I can start the unit, raise the bucket, shut machine off, and the bucket will stay up. Okay, so if the bucket stays up, that means that your Bix lock is working correctly, and it means that your cylinder packings are good. So I would lean more toward that port relief at this point. So I don't think it's the manual lowering control valve. Yeah, I would be looking at port relief.
And Lonnie was asking about the user manuals, I guess.
Oh, any used manual valves out there for 763 old machine?
So you can buy the paper copy service manual for $170 on Bobcat's website.
Yeah. There's a couple options on that. If you have my email, like I said, I try to answer all my emails, but shoot me an email with your serial number, and we'll see what we can come up with for you on that. Let's see. Gates mobile crimp, such a great crimp. Yeah, that's what we use, the Gates. Yeah, mobile crimp, man. It's awesome. I like to. So we got it set up on the bench back there, but whenever we get a call for in the field, I just load it in my truck and take it out with me and do them out in the field when we can, for sure. Fin Power crimper. I'm not. Oh, I have heard of the Fin Powers. Yeah. This looks like a great channel. I subscribe. Well, thank you for subscribing, Charger Mopar. You've been a great asset tonight. I appreciate you helping answer all these questions, man. It looks like you've got plenty of years experience on all this heavy equipment. So lots of knowledge and experience here. Well, it looks like there's lots of knowledge and experience on your side as well. So thanks for helping us. Oil loss was the new turbo defective, i.e. Chinese made quick impeller charge side to see if it's wet.
Back to the 2607.
Yeah, going back to the 2607 that's losing oil. But he said he put what, two
new turbos on.
2 new turbos. That would be 3 turbos. I mean, yeah, I guess it's possible. I'd hate to think that many turbo changes. He's still pulling it through the turbo, but I guess anything's possible, man. Let's see. You didn't think it was related. It may not be related. It depends on why is lift and if lift and tilt quits, then it should code for something. Did you get any codes? I mean, it don't just stop operating. In I guess anything's possible, but usually it would code out usually when it stops. But drive motor leaks because of the brakes. The drive actually worked fine, even though the fluid level is low.
Tilt.
I'm not sure on that. Eli says he's the guy with the E45 that had injector problems. Was that last week or 2 weeks ago? Yeah, I do remember. The problem is that when the Bobcat mechanic did to the new injector, he put a lot of grease on the injector. So we were kept having injector failures or something. And he says that when the guy put his injector in, he was covering it in grease for some reason. Yeah, so the only time I use grease on an injector is I will use just a dab on the fire ring, that copper washer that goes on the bottom of it, just to hold it onto the injector tip. And then I'll just put a dab of grease, or even I just use motor oil on that O-ring when you drop it in. So I don't know why I was putting a ton of grease around it. There's just no reason to do that. So oil loss, pull oil fill cap and note any blow by. Yep, that's true too. He said he even rebuilt the engine. So if he rebuilt the engine, new rings and but again, anything's possible. Do we have the right ring gap? When you rebuild the engine, did you measure the ring gaps and all that stuff? So yeah, there's so many things it could be, but they even have a parts manual available. Yeah, so all the parts manuals are available online. You just go to Bobcat Parts online. But they've changed what's the actual name of it?
Partscatalog.bobcat.com.
Partscatalog.bobcat.com. So that's got all the parts manuals for all the machines. And yeah, they got a lot of, they don't really offer, they do have a ton of like operators manuals and parts manuals and stuff, but not necessarily the service manuals from Bobcat. But you can download them from other sources, I do believe. Newark said he's had a mechanic blow the brake seals out once the lift tilt went over relief, put a gauge on the hose feeding the brake 2-speed, saw relief pressure, ended up changing the valve. Exactly. Dead on. He might have had the same situation I had, and that's exactly what it does when you went over. And it wasn't even the one I had wasn't even going over relief. So he must have had a crack on the main relief side. The one I had wasn't even going over main relief, but it was actually putting. So if you tried to lift, let's say, a load of bricks, it was fine if you just tried to move the arms up and down. But if you tried to lift something heavy, then that high pressure from lifting, because now we've got 2,500, 3,000 psi trying to lift that load of bricks, and that was shooting through the main control valve and getting into the charge section. So yeah, basically the same exact thing that Newark's just said. That is basically the exact same thing that I had on mine, and it was blowing out drive motors. How many drive motors did we lose before we figured that out? 4, 33.
3 from what I remember. That was a few years ago, though.
Yeah, because that was very unique. But that goes back to talking about, you can troubleshoot as much as you or think how everything works until you get a hairline crack or something in your control valve, and then all hell breaks loose. Dang, we're almost 2 hours going. Guys, I appreciate all the questions, man. This is so much fun for me. But yeah, we're almost 2 hours into this thing. One other suggestion that Newark's had says, well, Andrew said that he works for a dealership. Love your channel. Keep it up. Thanks for the information. Yeah, thank you, Andrew, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, get as much experience as you can from that dealership. Go to the Bobcat schools, man. They are very helpful. And yeah, just absorb everything you can from them. And if you ever need anything or any suggestions, I appreciate you being here. I was actually going to ask some more Bobcat mechanics to come on here and help. I'm trying to ramble off just reading a sentence or two, trying to help diagnose this stuff. But other good Bobcat mechanics can probably just pick up on something I missed and help answer some of these questions. So thanks for being here. Hopefully we'll see you next Tuesday. And Newark said, a hole in the lift load check. Yeah, it's possible. I've never seen a hole in the load check. I've seen more seats. The seat in the load check be bad. But if you've seen a hole, let me know. But I guess that is a possibility. And that would be for the arms lifting down, right? Or drifting down. But yeah, it could be a load check, but more often than not, I see port relief issues on that. But if the port relief checks out, then you got to go to your load check for sure. So. Well, all right. Well, Charger Moped, he's got a bunch of old That's awesome to have old paper manuals. I've got a few of those left, but not many. So awesome, guys. Next week, Tuesday, Mike will be back with us, and we will see you then. So yeah, keep your questions up. Thanks for the mechanics who are here. Hopefully y'all can enjoy us next week and help us answer some of these questions. And yeah, anything in between that, if anybody wants to shoot me an email, we try to answer emails and texts and stuff. It's just hard for me because we are so busy. But this is where we try to take an hour or two and help out where we can. So thanks again. This helps us stay on top of things as far as just looking at things in a different manner from different perspectives, and it kind of helps us stay on top of stuff. So anyways, enough about that. Eastern Equipment, great forum today, guys. Well, thank you, man. We try. Thanks for your help, Kyle. Anytime. So he's over there hammering down on the computer, looking up questions and parts and information while he's always with us. Even when Mike and I are here, I keep him out of I keep him off camera. So thanks again. Good night, guys. See you next week.